Chennai right now. So,
Oh, okay. So you're not missing
Chennai?
it. Great.
Oh, you're in
yeah,
Chennai?
I'm
Oh,
in Chennai.
oh,
Yes.
okay, okay.
Yeah. See, this week was, we had Vishu on Monday with Tamil New Year.
Ah,
And then this Thursday and Friday is Good Friday. And right, the Thursday before Friday is also a holiday here in Kerala.
okay, 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 okay.
So I came here for 2 days and work from here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you fly? Do you fly to Chennai?
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Let's see. I think now I should be able to. I think you've seen one screen, right?
Yeah.
We'll get started. Oh, oh, Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So you want to do the...
Om Partaya Pradibhotitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadasadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini.
Namostu Devya Savishala Buddhe Pullaravinda Yadabhatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajwalito Jnanamaya Pratibha
Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetamrutuduhe Namaha.
Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsacharudavartanam Devahi Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatkurum.
Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma sucha.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful.
Mhm.
In Zoom, it was possible to immediately jump in. So we are almost like the second last lecture of the 11th chapter. And the last two classes, last two sessions, like almost from verse 35 to almost verse 45, we see Arjuna is expressing so much his appreciation, I would say. Expressing the appreciation is not the right word. I think this is how we would probably use in the West, but I think he is overwhelmed by the Vishwarupa and he just surrenders at the feet of the Lord. But as much as, he is overwhelmed and he is, what should I say, taken completely by the Vishwarupa, but we see that Arjuna is really not kind of mature enough to understand, withstand that Vishwarupa. Because, I mean, and this is why I bring this point up, because Suvarna last time she sent a note saying that, can we discuss this? How has our understanding of Ishvara changed? And this is very crucial because for Arjuna, he was taken all the way from not even where he was Anekarupa Deva, he was taken all the way from where he was as a simple mortal, as a jiva, all the way from the first chapter onwards, right? where he's taught to really appreciate why he's doing things, what is his role as a jiva in the world, why have we taken this life, all this aspect. And then we are towards the end of this second portion of the Bhagavad Gita, where he is actually being taught to look beyond the Aneka Rupa to the Vishwarupa, but still he doesn't have the maturity to understand what Vishwarupa really means. Now, why is that? Why is that he is unable to accept, not even accept is not the word, unable to totally see the Vishwarupa? After all, this Vishwarupa is actually, if you think about it, this entire creation, sustenance, dissolution, all this is actually a relative entity. Okay. Now, I'm bringing this up in a very critical manner because later, as you come to the third part of Bhagavad Gita, we'll be talking a little more on this creation being a relative entity. But for the sake of our discussion here, we will stick to where Ishvara is Vishwarupa. Now, that is the transition that Arjuna is making. Arjuna is making a transition from seeing Krishna as he's now able to accept that Krishna is Bhagavan. But when Bhagavan showed him that he is in everything and that everything is in me, for him it was too much to accept because he sees everything going on in that world, in that creation. That starting from creation, starting from how things are sustained, how things are born, how things are die, So this entire creation, in a way, we could call this is a relative entity. Now, when we say relative versus permanent, right? Maybe that's why even all our relatives, we call them as relatives, because today they might be relatives, tomorrow we don't know if they are our relatives, not necessarily just because our relationships or anything, but because physically also they are not there with us. So this creation is a kind of a relative entity. Okay. And it consists of so many pairs of opposites. So if I'm really going to see this entire universe as the Lord, I should be able to accept all the opposites, this birth and death, sorrow and happiness, birth, decay of our body at the physical level, at the mental level, at the intellectual level, all these relationships like we talked about, sometimes today I'm very close to somebody, another day I'm not close to somebody, someday this one. But I should be able to accept all this. This is actually part of creation. And I should have literally a kind of a reverential, attitude of acceptance, right? I should be able to say namaskar, and that is what Arjuna was doing, namaskar, and all those things, all the previous shlokas there. I should have this, and not only this one, it's things are pairs of opposite, but even events are pairs of opposites. Like we said, relationships are pairs of opposites, but even things that we have are pairs of opposites. Today, I may have a certain fridge which does its job, tomorrow it may not do its job, right? So if birth is an integral part of Bhagavan, then death is also an integral part of Bhagavan only. And therefore, to become this Vishwarupa Bhakta, I should be able to accept anything and everything in this world with an equanimity, because I know that the world is changing. I know that the world is relative. The world is not permanent. The world is not there the same every time for me. It is only me who tend to become attached to a certain way in which I want the world to be, and I get attached to it, and then I get disappointed with it. The world is perfectly okay the way it is going, you know. So maybe that is what Sunitha Williams also, when she was showing all these pictures from up, is showing, how the world can be, is just going on its own. But we are the ones who really pay so much of attention to it. We become attached to it. So are you able to see that connection between how I look at the world, how um, how the aspect of Ishvara, which I was always looking at as this one Aneka Rupa Ishvara, one God, and how that changes into Vishwarupa Ishvara, as that Ishvara who's there in and through everything. So that's the part that I wanted to just explain. Suvarna, I mean, does that make sense?
Hari Om, thank you so much for taking up this question again. And yes, it at sitting in your class listening to this explanation, I am like, okay, I have understood. After I get up from this class, at the do I retain it? I'm not there yet. I cannot answer that question yet. But at that intellectual level, yes, I've understood everything that you have explained, and
Okay.
it was very. It made a lot of sense. My only prayer is I retain it after.
Right. So this whole aspect of understanding Ishvara as a Vishwarupa Ishvara, that is where Ishvara is in everything and everything is nothing but Ishvara. Like even on the Zoom call, as we are seeing each other, every individual is nothing but Ishvara. Ishvara is in different forms. Ishvara is everything. Ishvara is the screen. Ishvara is all the figures on the screen. Ishvara is everything which is behind the screen, front of screen, everything. So to develop that requires a lot of reverence. In many ways, our mind has to be completely out of any kind of disturbance in our mind. I mean, the disturbance that causes all those thought waves, which makes us attached, detached, all that stuff. Everything has to completely equalize. There has to be an equilibrium. So that attitude itself is a maturity. Yeah, Geeta?
Okay. Okay, we understand that because of Vishwa, all this nature or whatever we understand. But when it comes to our life, how will it change? Is there a paradigm shift, or how will it change our thinking, or will it change our behavior? How will it influence us?
Just one line, one word actually. One develops equanimity. You really
Has our understanding of Ishvara changed? That is what we think of Ishvara. Did it change? That's the question here.
right.
So that is okay. We can understand Ishvara, but how does it influence our life or our? Will it create a paradigm shift in us, or what
Of
will
course.
happen to us? That's my question.
Our the way we look at people will change.
Mm-hmm.
For example, today I look at different people as separate individuals. Now I look at them as, it's not that as if suddenly they all become just a big mass of flesh and, there is no name, form. It's not like that. I look at all of them, like for a simple example of this Navaratri Gulu, right? When we do the Gulu, we show all the figures on the 9 steps. But each one of those figures actually are none other than that Ishvara in that form. So too, when I interact with the world, with my own family, with my own children, with my grandchildren, and everybody, I look at them as who they are, but I also recognize that they are Ishvara. I literally, I take the form in front of them. I remember when we were in Sandipani, Swamiji used to ask us in meditation, he used to say, okay, bring a certain form in front of you and then say that, okay, you are that form, and now substitute that name with Ishvara. Okay.
Mm.
If I can take that with my own family, then I'll be able to take that with anybody on the street. and I will automatically change my attitude and how I do things. Automatically, for example, I start looking at my streets, my towns. So that way, my understanding percolates into every action. So it is not just the understanding of Ishvara that has changed, but I actually see Ishvara in everyone. And that takes a lot of maturity in the mind. And that, in many ways, is how one would define maturity. Maturity is the ability to go from an individual to a collective.
Okay.
Every association I come to accept,
So-
I equally accept every disassociation also. That is very important. As much as I was very close to somebody, I will be able to accept that I'm not close to somebody. Of course, I'm not meaning this can be construed a little differently, but I'm not saying that way. What I'm saying is that for whatever reason, if a certain association didn't happen, you accept it.
So the maturity slowly happens. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anand. Vinod.
Sorry, Geetaji. I just want to ask one question once Geetaji is done. That how do you bring yourself back to that understanding? Because sometimes during the day or moments, we feel that everybody is same. But at sometimes, because of the conditioning, or whatever the emotions that are going through, or whatever the situation it is, we cannot bring us back to that understanding.
So the classic example that is always given, just as an analogy, is like a rubber band. How quickly can you come back from where you may have strayed away from not accepting somebody, and you're in a situation because of raga, dvesha, or whatever, likes and dislikes, that I tend to have a certain feelings of animosity or whatever. How quickly can I come back to that stable state is the level of maturity that I would have developed. Okay.
So needs
Yeah,
lot
but
of
how do you develop that? Maybe it's not part of this, but how do we develop that? Because to me, it happens like, okay, certain situation happen, I reacted in the way I should not have reacted. And later on, when I analyze, sometimes I feel happy, see, I have done good. I'm like, I am better. But then when I go back and say, okay, can I have done this even different way, where I could have realized that fact that it is the same, but at the same time, I reacted in a way, or I acted in a way that was not as per that
Right.
Ishvara is also there in the other eye that I'm looking
The
or
key to
interacting with.
that, the key to that is to every moment that I'm not transacting in the world, because it's only when I'm transacting in the world, right, that all these issues come up. So every time when I'm not transacting in the world, my mind has to be on Ishvara. But how can I keep that mind on Ishvara? Is through, of course, like we say, satsang, or constantly being in the company of the good, in the sense reading books, or even being listening, shravanam, which is very important. And at all levels, physical level, mental level, intellectual, constantly, am I making sure that I'm physically fit, for example, which is very, very important. We don't pay too much attention, as much attention to physical fitness. Physical fitness in terms of sleep, eating the right kind of food, all that. Mentally, which is where the bigger challenges are, but mental and physical also have its own relationships, right? I mean, if physically I'm not fit, if I have a bad cold and all that, that affects how my mind reacts, actually. Mind needs a lot of water. Actually, this is a few things that I've discovered recently. Drinking a lot of water is needed for the mind to function well. So keeping the mind fit is probably one of the most important things. And then intellectually, stimulation through texts like Bhagavad Gita. This section of Bhagavad Gita, though, is purely in bhakti. And this is where Krishna is actually asking Arjuna to develop that bhakti towards a Vishwarupa, because that is a very important sadhana. Actually, this whole Vishwarupa thing is a sadhana by itself, because it allows my mind to expand. Right now, my mind is so focused, and as an individual, as this ego which is there in Sunitha, looking at the world only as Sunitha, but I have to expand who Sunitha is, and I should be able to expand and accept everyone as the bandhus of Sunitha, not just my immediate family or. So that's the aspect which, Vinod, I mean, we need to practice that more and more during all the time when I'm not acting in this world.
Supposing if you
I
go ahead, Vinod, sorry.
no, I just remember when you said practice, I remembered Swami Chinmayananda's 8th chapter, 3rd or 4th shloka, when he talked about the practice yoga, because there are 82 yogas that are defined. Practice yoga has only defined in Gita. So
No,
practice.
practice, practice, practice. Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
So, you're welcome. So, go ahead, Suvarna.
So, what Vinod he was saying, our attitude when we are with this is where I think the 41 and the 42nd shloka is where I think that is what Arjuna is trying to tell us, or I that is what I felt, that regarding you merely as a friend. So if we can not think friend as just a friend, but as a extension of the same Atma that is within us and is also in that friend. But like he was saying, at times when we are uh, it need not be the friend's fault. We ourselves might be feeling not well, or we were thinking something and something else. It could be something that is not actually connected with the friend, but then you say something that, or you do something that hurts the friend, and then you are like, oh my god, you reflect upon it. So it's like how it keeping that constant memory of that friend is also a amsha of the same atma, that I am, we are the same. That is, it takes
So,
lot of practice.
I
It
think
does
it's
not
mainly
happen in
because my
a
mind has strayed away, right? My mind at that
yes.
moment has strayed away from accepting the friend as Ishvara. So it's as simple as that, but very difficult to practice, of course, is to the extent that my mind has strayed away from accepting the world as Ishvara, to that extent, I get knocked more and more by the world, because I have considered me as this myself, this simple jiva. So so literally I have to clear this mind of all this garbage, of all my thoughts of everything else, and simplify it by just expansion, you know. And this is what we call, this is actually a very rarefied mind, Rarefied means, like, for example, as we go up, there is less and less of oxygen, right? I mean, the when we climb a mountain or whatever. So the point being that the mind has to be more and more clearer. That clarity of mind is equivalent to a maturity. And in many ways, that is why for Arjuna, Vishwarup was kind of a threat. He was not ready for it. His mind still had so much amount of raga, dvesha for all his relatives and everyone. His mind was not mature, and therefore he was not able to withstand that Vishwarupa. And that is why he wanted Krishna. He said, go back to your form. I can't take this anymore. The maturity of mind is not there. So to answer Vinod's question as well as others, is how can I make myself then a mature mind? Because only when I develop this maturity will I be able to accept Bhagavan as the Vishwarupa, right? But then one can do so also by accepting Bhagavan as the Aneka Rupa Ishvara, like for example as Krishna, Rama, Shiva, etc. So when I do that, I'll be able to see everyone as Rama, see everyone as Ganesha, you know. So that itself will give us an ability to literally see through everything as as Narayana. As my mother would always say, I don't understand your Brahman, but I understand who Narayana is. So for me, everything is Narayana, So that we can look at that way. We can look at Ganesha. I mean, it can start off initially by even saying that, my own son, who I love so dearly, let me see my son in everyone, you know, expand my sense of who my son is in everybody and help out everybody. And then slowly start to substitute that with somebody who is, because the minute I keep saying my son, I'll be looking at only his positives and negatives or whatever, but I need to go beyond that because creation is, like I said, relative and it is beyond all that. Okay. So we were,
Hariom.
yes, Anand.
Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, Bhagavan says, Samatvam Yogam Uchyate.
Yes, exactly.
So
That
the
is the key.
the equanimity and to see everyone equal. Again, also in Chenmaya mission, in a pledge, I mean, the Guru Stotra, we say, Madatma Sarvabhutasma Tasmai Sri
Correct.
Gurve Namaha. So,
Correct.
and then it's again the practice step by step, which has to be done. And also I mean, sometimes we have to be aware that the other person is not looking us in that way, right? And also
Yes.
in the transaction world, if we carried away with something else, then we try to bring it back to the samatva bhavana again.
Correct.
The practice, as you mentioned. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Exactly. Yeah. Ultimately, it keeps coming back to having that equanimity of mind, samatvam yoga uchate, like you said. So, by shloka number 40, Krishna really wanted Arjuna to see that one Ishvara in all beings and to see that unity in diversity. So his goal was really fulfilled when he finds that in this Divya Chakshu that he has given him, Arjuna was able to see that it is ultimately Ishwar that pervades everything, that ultimately it is he alone who's in everything. So then you see Arjuna, doing that namaskar, Namah Purastat Prishtastaste Namostute Sarvata Eva Sarva. So he does namaskar from all sides. And then he calls him Ananta Virya Vikramastvam. He has infinite strength, omnipotent. So any power that is anywhere belongs to you only. He finally recognizes that everything, I mean, including Elon Musk using his power to go to Mars or whatever, everything is only in Ishvara. So as much as we may be thinking that, okay, who is the greatest of all, if we say it is Elon Musk, but there is somebody even greater, and that is Ishvara, because Ishvara has even a lot more power than Elon Musk, So that's the greatness, I mean, in many ways, of our Hinduism, I think, because it really allows us to see the maximum to the maximum possible you can go through all this text, right? So now, having gone through so much of, what should I say, the teaching that Arjuna has gone through, suddenly it's like, duh, Arjuna is like, who am I really talking to here? All this time I was looking at Krishna as a friend from childhood. And, he just remembers all the playthings that he had done with him, with, the things that he had played. So he starts to appeal for forgiveness. And he starts to the shloka 41, which is Sakheti Matva Prasabam Yaduktam, Hey Krishna, Hey Yadava, Hey Sakheti. He uses all these beautiful words, and wants to claim, wants to get back that Krishna who he he wants Krishna to go back to that form, and of course he has a great reverence for him and everything, but for him his mind is, this is how he has remembered him, right? So then in 42 he starts to ask for the forgiveness. He repeatedly keeps saying that, please forgive me, I'm really not, ready for this. So just bring back, and he uses word like achyuta and everything, which is so beautiful. Each one he uses some great words to describe Arjuna itself. So he says, I may have disrespected you at some avahasar, he say avaha sartam, for the sake of fun I may have disrespected you, but I did that only because you're my friend and so please forgive me. And then in Shloka 43, he appeals to him more now, saying that, okay, just like how we have our parents, he says, he describes, how parents forgive the children. So too, he says, please forgive me for that. So he says, Pitasi lokasya characharasya. And, he says, you're the father, you're worthy to be adored, you're the greatest guru. Then, he completely, totally surrenders by saying, all this. And then he goes back and he says, therefore, for all these reasons which I showed in the previous shlokas, treating the Lord as a friend is acceptable, but Arjuna continuously feels bad, he feels guilty, and therefore he says, therefore, I have offended you, only because I've always thought of you this way, so I'm offering even more namaskars, So Pranam, I offer extra this year, and it is something, please again forgive me. And he gives those three things which last week we discussed, three different ways, just like a father, just like, a person forgiving his beloved, and also as a friend, three different ways in which this forgiveness happens. So, and then having asked for forgiveness, Arjuna now tries for the third time to get Sri Krishna to revert to that beautiful, pleasant form that he was always used to, the form which is, Prasida, he just says, Prasida Deva Isha Jagat Nivasa, you please go back. And in this 46 is where he describes what, that beautiful form of his, which is Kiritinam Gadinam Chakrahastam Ichhami Tvam Drashtumaham Tathaiva. Tenaiva Rupena Chaturbhujena Sahasrabaho Bhava Vishwamurte. So he's trying to say that, go back to that form that I really, really love, which is, where you have that maze, you have the discus in hand. This is a Vishnu Rupa, So we are going from Vishwarupa to Vishnu Rupa. And he says, I would love to see you only in that one with the 4 arms. And he says, oh, 1,000-arm, oh, universal form. So just trying to show that, the 4 arms, which is the disc, the lotus, the mace, all that in his hand. So he says, go back to this. And if you get a chance, you should read in the book, Swami Chimananda has given a beautiful explanation in shloka number 46. I wanted to actually put that in here with the pictures and all that, But he says on page, the new book, page 105, he says about how the 4 symbolic instruments which the Lord is represented to carry in his 4 hands are the club, the mace, that is, the disc, the conch, and the lotus. He says, the call of the divine comes to everyone's bosom when he blows his conch. Okay? And if man were not to listen to the call of the higher dictates in himself, then what happens? It's just like we have the Samadana Veda Danda, right? So if man is not ready to listen to that conch, okay, then the club follows to punch him. Okay, the mace. And in spite of that, if man continues his own mistakes, the disc chops him down. In case the roar of the conch is obeyed implicitly, then he gains the status of the lotus, a flower that represents in Hinduism what the white pigeon and the palm leaf stands in Western traditions. peace and prosperity are the significance of lotus in India. Lotus signifies a spiritual perfection. So I just wanted to read that part of it because many times, we go to the temple, we accept the 4 arms, what the club, what the discus, all that, but we don't look into why is Vishnu holding those 4 things, which is the mace, the discus, and the conch and the lotus. So that is what the 4 arms here are referring to. So now we come to the end of the cosmic vision, which is shown to Arjuna. Arjuna is pleading, right? Arjuna is, it's like we are so habituated, and this is what happens to all of us too. We, like when Gita was asking this question is, how do we make the paradigm shift? Yes, we do want to make the paradigm shift, but I think we're also very comfortable with where we are today. And this is, again, because of habit. We have been so habituated to accept the comforts in our house, the comforts in our relationships, and it's very hard for us to go back. So Arjuna, in many ways, is also asking to be relieved of that terrifying Vishwarupa and wants to go back to the Vishnu Rupa, which was discussed in the previous shloka here. So he first glorifies that Vishwarupa form, and then he goes to 2 stages. In the first, he takes a Vishnu Rupa to oblige Arjuna. This is Krishna. So Krishna is now ready to answer Arjuna's questions. And in the second stage, he returns to even the physical form of a human being, which is a normal form which Arjuna has been used to. So we see Krishna taking all these forms. So let's read that. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Prasannin. Okay, I'm not going to sing it. Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam Rupam Param Darshitamatma Yogat Tejo Mayam Vishwam Ananta Madhyam Yanme Twadanyena Na Drashtu Purvam. Okay, so Maya Prasannena Tava Arjuna Idam. So through my own Maya, by my Prasannena, by my own graciousness, O Arjuna, I have revealed for you this supreme form, Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat, by my own yogic power. Okay, so he has shown this. And what is that beautiful Vishwarupa? It was Tejomayam, full of splendor. And it is Vishwam, that, Vishwarupa. So that full universal form. And it is Anantam. Anantam, beautiful word to show here too is, so only yesterday I was seeing something about where Carl Sagan had this one picture. I think it was in Facebook. I saw this beautiful thing, which is, in Milky Way, you have the Earth as one small dot. The dot is even smaller than Gita's bindi, that it's that fine small dot. And everything else is nothing but that Anantam, that the entire universe. That is Vishwarupa, Anantam, Adhyam, it is primeval. Yat me tvat anyena na drishtapurvam. And this is important. He's saying, never have I shown this to anybody else. Never has anyone else shown it other than Sri Krishna. Actually, I think we talked about before. He did, Sanjay was able to see it, right? But through Arjuna only, right? So Krishna showed Arjuna directly this. So this is what makes Arjuna kind of unique. And it, so what is it really trying to teach us? So we are given something here to really think about. So the cosmic form is not something that takes place in time. It cannot be shown by anyone, nor can it be seen by anyone. It is not really some kind of a treated vision. So it's only by the grace of Krishna, Arjuna was tuned into it. So there's really a great bhakti component which we are seeing here. It's only by the grace of Krishna, and it actually is there in front of us all the time. It's always present. Okay, but the key part, and that is what I mentioned, the key part is, are we tuned to it? So that's something to think about here. So when Arjuna, like when he makes his request, Lord Krishna says, Arjuna, I'm really not really responsible for showing this Vishwarupa. In fact, I know you're not ready yet. But since you made a special request, I choose to show that to you. And now that you do not want that Vishwarupa, I will bless you accordingly. That's why he says, Arjuna, tava idam rupam darshitam. So idam rupam means idam Vishwarupam. That's what he tried to show him here. So this universal mind has been shown to you. And how did he show it? Through Atma Yoga. Because of my own Maya Shakti, Through his own Maya Shakti, he was able to show this. So the word actually, yoga actually here has many meanings. According to this context here, yoga basically means, his Maya Shakti. That's what is referring to here. And so Krishna is really showing and telling him that, this is really very important here. And then it's Anantam, limitless. Like I said, Anantam Adyam, which is the very first born. That's the whole aspect of thing here. And in Mahabharata, we find Krishna shows his Vishwarupa on 2 or 3 occasions, but this is only to highlight that Arjuna is like the person who has actually seen this. So this cosmic form, Vishwarupa, if you look at it, has been shown, it's no different than moksha. Okay? So this, if you think about it, Arjuna was given privy to the highest form of the Lord. And if one can accept that Vishwarupa, one has already realized that. So with this, you see that we can think about, to reach that highest state. So this shloka which is coming up, right? It is it needs a lot of thought here, but it is also something where, he says that to reach to that high level, okay, it things like sacrifice, things like dhanam, and then austerity, they're not to be given up even after enlightenment. They all have the places, but they by themselves will not really take you there. So this aspect of seeing the Vishwarupa, or be looking at it as moksha or self-realization, it actually can be attained only when there is a lot of purification. And when Vinod was asking this question, how can we get there? So there's a lot of purifying of our own mind, which is getting rid of this garbage, is needed. But this garbage removal is not like every Tuesday or Wednesday when the garbage truck comes, that I'm giving it up. It's not that. It's actually in our own mind. So the knowledge of the self is something that I have to understand it myself, and I need to meditate upon. And in my mind, that paradigm shift can happen just like that, So he says, Krishna is saying that na vedya yajna adhyayanat na danaha. So the Vedas and the yajnas, neither by the study nor by making any amount of gifts. Okay? Nacha kriya bihi na tapo bihi ugrahi. So not even by any performance of rituals, nor by doing any austerities, evam rupaha shakyaha. You can achieve, can this form of mind, my shakya aham nriloke. So can this form of mind, the cosmic form among the world of men, by seeing drashtum tavtvat anyena kuru pravira. So he's calling Kuru Pravira, he's calling Arjuna, oh great hero, drashtum tvat anyena, but nobody has ever seen this, and it is, you alone have been able to achieve this aspect of it. Only you have got this unique idea here. So, na Vedya, so rituals and study of Vedya. So, Anya Dhanaihi, so rituals or studies, and you see Kriya Bihi, Tapo Bihi, nothing, none of those things, which again points to what here? What kind of sadhana is he really trying to show here? It's basically just pure bhakti, right? Everything
Yeah,
else,
Sharanagati.
yeah, exactly. So, we see people taking up different techniques of worship, penance in this one, but and they get so attached to those techniques that they really lose sight of what the real goal is, which is this liberation, right? See, they sometimes may even go as far as saying that that is the best sadhana, and sometimes that probably leads to a lot of wars and everything, where each religion is claiming that the kind of sadhanas that they're doing are the best ones, right? So here, Krishna is kind of reminding him that, in many ways, it's only by compassion that I'm able to show you this universal form here. And he's really showing that bhakti is really the most important sadhana here. Now, because, there are words which are used here like na Vedas, na study of Dhanam, etc. I'm sure you might be reminded of one other shloka which we say it at least once a year in Chinmay Mission. Na Veda, Yajna, Dana, Tapa. Can anyone think of it? Think about convocation, the annual convocation. What is the main shlokas we say there for the kids?
Is it Matrudeva Bhava, Pitrudeva Bhava, Acharya
Yes,
Deva Bhava, Ati
Acharya
Deva Bhava?
Devova, correct. Where does that come from?
Taittiriya Upanishad?
Taittiriya Upanishad, exactly. So this shlokas, so I thought I'll just Vedamanuchacharyon Tevasina Manushasti Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara Swadhyayam Ma Pramadaha Acharyaya Priyam Dhanamashritya Prajatantum Ma Vyavatse Chetsihi Satyana Pramaditavyam Dharmana Pramaditavyam Kushalana Pramaditavyam Bhutyena Pramaditavyam Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam Na Pramaditavyam. So in this shloka, he's saying, do not neglect your study and teaching. But then in our these shlokas, he's saying, not by Vedas, not by Yajnas can you get this. So does it make sense is, the question that is coming up here. But the point about it is that, and then here he says, Deva Pitra Karyabhyam, Na Pramaditavyam, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava, Yanyana Vadyani Karmani, Tani Sevitavyani, Novitrani, Yanyasmakagam Sucharitani, Tani Tvayo Pasyani, Novitrani. So the point about it here is that he is trying to say that yes, Svadhyaya is important, but at the same time, it's very important that this kind of this state in which you can reach there, it requires through complete understanding, but at the end of the day, it's complete surrender and a complete tuning is how you will really go to that point, So Krishna is saying that dhanam in that sense is also probably less of a sadhana here. Ultimately, it's that complete tuning, So it goes again, with Shraddhaya Deyam, Ashraddhaya Deyam, Shriya Deyam, Kriya Deyam, Bhiya Deyam, Samvida Deyam. So all these things is because of the fact that Dhanam was mentioned, I thought, I will put this up too. I mean, these are pretty deep. I know in Gita's house on Friday study groups, we have discussed quite a bit on this Shraddhaya Deyam and Ashraddhaya Deyam. And but the point about it is that even Dhanam is not the ultimate. And so, so Krishna's really giving ultimately is that bhakti is one of the biggest drivers for moving forward. So, and then in Shloka 49, knowing that fully well, Krishna with, he asks Krishna, where Arjuna's state of mind is, he asks Arjuna not to worry and he then removes all his, all the fear. He reassures him that, he was his friend, charioteer and companion all along, not somebody else. He's not really changed or anything. Nothing has really changed. And he uses the word, you can see the various words he uses here. Mate vyatha macha vimuda bhavaha drashtva rupam ghora mi drishyumedam vyapatebhi pratimanaha punastvam tadeva me rupam idam prapashya. And Veena, I want to promise you, I will definitely chant the entire 11th chapter tomorrow or next week when we do it. Hopefully by then my throat will be much better, but I'm just reading it out more in the form of prose here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here he says, Mate vyatha macha vimuda bhavaha. So he's reassuring Arjuna, saying that, don't worry. Here I'm, I'm not trying to confuse you and kind of get out of that thing. Drishtva rupam ghoram idrik mama idam. I know you're seeing a terrible form here, but I want to tell you that don't be afraid here. And he says, with your fear dispelled and with a heart gladdened, again, that form, you can now see what I'm presenting to you, So he says, Arjuna, if you're not ready for this Vishwarupam, then I really do not want to impose this on you, So, and this is something which is very important in our Hinduism itself, It's really a unique part of it. So, if there are some people who says, you know what, I'm not really ready for this moksha, I remember some jokes which Swami Chinmayananda would say, when I'm meditating, I'm really so afraid because what if I disappear, who is there to take care of me? That kind of feelings sometimes may come to people when they think that moksha is where, you disappear completely. It's not that. It's just that, moksha is that state of complete liberation, but we have to be ready for it, right? So that's why in some ways he's saying that, if you're not ready for it, then, we do have the other paths. You can come back and I will just show you, where you want to be here. So, don't get totally overpowered by it. So then in shloka number 50, so this is all Krishna's teachings, just in 3 shlokas, he brings Arjuna back to kind of so-called reality. And we finish off this with Sanjaya's words here, where Sanjaya is now taking us back to, the scene kind of shifts to Hastinapur here. And Sanjaya is saying, Ityarjunam Vasudevas Tatoktva Swakam Rupam Darshayamasa Bhuyah Ashvasayamasa cha Bhitamenam Bhutva Punaf Saumya Purva Mahatma. So once again, that friendly form, Manushya Rupa, he brings back. So that's to Arjuna. Here, Iti Arjunam Vasudevaha Tatha Uktva. He spoke to him. Swakam Rupam Darshaya Masa Bhuyah. He resumes Swakam, his own form. He resumes that. And then Ashvasya Masa Chabhitam Enam. Therefore, in order to further console him who was thus terrified, that is referring to Arjuna here, Bhutva Punaf Saumya Vapuhu Mahatma. He brings back that friendly form of the Manushya Rupa into that great form here. So Sanjay is concluding this part of it to Dhritarashtra. So Bhuta Enam Arjunam, so Arjuna who's frightened here. Ashvasya Masa, Lord Krishna, he consoles him with, how does he console him? By bringing the Saumya Vapuhu. Saumya Vapuhu, which is that very beautiful, smiling Krishna, so that entire, that Ghora Rupam, that frightening thing was now replaced by Saumya Rupam, that beautiful thing. We have Adharam Madhuram, Vadanam Madhuram, Nayanam Madhuram, so that Rupam he brings here back. And so he brings that back. And so we'll see next week what the next final section of, Arjuna will now speak out after Krishna has really spoken up. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much. Feel better soon.
You're welcome.
Narayan, thank you, Sunita ji.
Hari Om. You're
Hari Om.
welcome.
Thank you, Sunita ji.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om, thank you so
Hari Om,
much.
thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. You're
You have to
welcome.
end the